Yeah, I think it's working now.
Hi, how are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
All right, thank you. You have good timing. I think I probably wouldn't have been able to do this any other time at the moment. So,
Oh, well, that's good. I'm sorry you're wrapping Christmas presents and I've just emailed you about it.
oh no, I'm wrapping up Christmas, wrapping up for Christmas, as in I'm finishing work for Christmas.
Oh, right. Okay.
All not as exhilarating as wrapping Christmas presents, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
It's all accounts and stuff closing out the year.
All right. Well, that's great. Yeah. So I've got a few questions if you don't
Yeah,
mind.
hello.
Oh, that's great. Okay. So how did you start off in the industry?
Um, I knew that I wanted to do this when I was very young, and was lucky enough to meet a few people who could help me as I sort of grew up. I think focus, like knowing that it's what I wanted to do, was hugely beneficial because it meant that I could take advantage of those situations when someone crossed my path. And then just keeping doing it. Just every spare minute I got, I was trying to make films, or if not, then just watching films, surrounding myself with it. Um, yeah, it's something that takes a lot of like you've got to really want it,
Yeah.
especially at the beginning. It can be quite tough.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So what drew you to practical effects in particular?
I mean, I was a magic nerd when I was really young,
Hmm.
and I sort of discovered that special effects were a thing when I was sort of like 11, a bit younger. From a book in the school library about monsters in film, and it was around about the same time they started asking us what we wanted to do when we grew up. And my answer was, I want to make monsters, and their answer was, well, that's not a real job. I said, well, you've got a book in the school library that says otherwise.
Okay. Um, what's your best experiences on a film set?
I mean, it's the same thing every time, really. If you do an effect and it works really well, obviously everyone has to be really quiet when you're filming, and they call cut, and then you hear an eruption of excitement or pleasure or disgust from Video Village. Everyone who's been watching on the monitors, and that's when you know how it went. You can plan as much as you want, but until it actually goes off on camera, you don't know how successful it's going to be. And to hear everyone respond to it is really exhilarating.
Yeah. Okay. So recently working on Possessor, how was it navigating the work of Brandon Cronenberg, particularly in relation to the work of his father?
I mean, to be honest, I'd say that, like, aesthetics and sensibilities aside, they're very separate filmmakers. There was never a point on set where it was relevant that he was the son of David Cronenberg. He's a very generous collaborator, and a very well, he's just very nice. He's a really nice guy. And then on top of that, I really liked what he was trying to do. He'd put together a really wonderful team. They made me feel really at home. Being a foreigner working within their system, they were all really welcoming. It was an incredibly positive experience.
All right. Okay. How important do you feel practical effects are in the modern filmmaking process in comparison to digital effects?
Um, it's. I think it's a false. I think the sort of competition between them is maybe not as real as a lot of people would think. I think right at the beginning, when VFX started to be possible, there was a very there's a big hubbub around them because they were new. They were an exciting new thing. But I don't think it's an either or. And obviously, Possessor is quite an exceptional instance in that we didn't have any digital effects at all. But nowadays, when you're designing practical effects, you always do it knowing that you're collaborating with, all the usual collaborators on a film, whether, it's the actors and the director and the cinematographer, but also with the VFX people. And you build that in when you're designing. So, yeah, I don't think it's that one is more important than the other. I think that they're different tools that can be drawn upon to do different aspects of the same job.
Mm-hmm. All right. Okay. At what stage of the filmmaking process does your work begin? So, on like film set, when do you
Yeah.
come in?
Well, I mean, it varies hugely. Sometimes I'm one of the first people to read the script. That's normally for the director and I have a standing relationship. So often I'll read a script when it's still being developed and actually have input and suggest things. And then sometimes I'll come in like really late. I've done a few films where they've shot the whole movie and then we've watched it in edit and decided that it needs punching up a bit. And I've received phone calls saying, can you come in and suggest some things to make this bit scary or make this bit whatever. And sometimes it's been like, well, we thought we could do this digitally and that's not working, so now we have to have a practical solution. So could you come in for that? So it's very different on a job by job basis. But obviously, the earlier I can be involved, the more excited I am about the job because the more of myself I can sort of bring to the design process.
Okay, that's great. I've got one more question, and it's what's your favourite film that you've worked on?
That I've worked on. I mean, it's an ever-updating list because I'm always very excited about stuff. I mean, Posessor, probably, because it was just such a wonderful experience, both creatively and just, like I said, just how nice everyone was. But, the producer that brought me on to Posessor is a chap called Andy Stark. And I've worked with Andy on so many things. Andy co-owns Rook Films with Ben Wheatley, but also co-owns Anti-Worlds, a distribution and production company, and has done stuff with other companies over the years as well. And it's like, I just did Censor with him, that's just been announced for Sundance next year. I did Steve Oram's with him. I did Infabric, the Peter Strickland picture with him. And he's, if Andy's the producer, I just know it's going to be a good time. Like, I know that I'm going to have a nice time on that set because he just hires nice people.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's great. Thank you
no worries
so much for taking time out.
Not at all. Best of luck with it. Have a lovely Christmas.
All right, you too.